the new U.S. Space Force, the sixth and newest branch of American military. There are at least 3 long-distance space vehicles, each named after historic military leaders. One is the USS Curtis LeMay, named after 4-star General Curtis LeMay, who was U.S. Air Force Chief of Staff from 1961 to 1965. I have been told that the USS LeMay has been, quote, crewed in outer space since 2003 and has been to 22 different catalog solar systems in our small arm of the Milky Way galaxy. Along with the USS Curtis LeMay is the USS Hoyt Vandenberg, a second long-distance space vehicle named after Major General Hoyt Vandenberg. He was U.S. Air Force Chief of Staff and President Truman appointed member of MJ-12 that secretly studied UFOs and ETs beginning in 1947. And the third U.S. long-distance space vehicle is named the USS Roscoe Hillenkoetter. Quoting from my source, the Hoyt Vandenberg is built mainly for reconnaissance, stellar mapping, laying out navigation paths to avoid cosmic obstacles, high radiation zones, newborn star development, and making first contact with other life forms. The USS Vandenberg has the largest crew of tall whites and Nordics from Sirius B on board to help facilitate first contact interaction correctly, meaning first contact interaction with other beings, other species in our cosmos. You could say that the USS Vandenberg is really the tip of the spear as we venture out. Just know that this is done under supervision from the 2 very old and responsible and respected off-world groups, the Tall Whites and the Nordics. Most of the contacts we made in cataloging different star systems have intelligences that are aware that the Tall Whites and Nordics are supervising us, meaning us humans. The Tall Whites and Nordics do not tell us where to go or where to look for other civilizations. They only monitor our activity while being on board our craft, close quote. In addition to the USS Curtis LeMay and the USS Hoyt Vandenberg, a third United States deep space vehicle is the USS Roscoe Hillenkoetter, named after Navy Admiral Hillenkoetter, who was the first CIA director from 1947 to 1950. He was a member of the Board of Governors for NICAP, the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, from 1957 to 1962. Mr. Hillenkoetter was also a Truman-appointed member of MJ-12 that secretly has studied UFOs and ETs for the U.S. government since its creation in 1947 by President Harry S. Truman. My source adds, quote, the Hillenkoetter, meaning the vehicle that goes into deep space, is tasked with dedicated group study mainly. It is built differently than the USS Hoyt Vandenberg in the areas of carrying large payloads to the surface of planets and keeping downward stations supplied for long duration of planetary surface studies. Both the USS Hillenkoetter and the USS Vandenberg have crew from the United States, the UK, Russia, and Germany. The Tall Whites work in conjunction with these other multi-country crews. The Nordic group is the oldest we have cataloged and have a standing respect of sorts from other groups of extraterrestrial civilizations, mainly due to the Nordics' longevity and keeping peace and any outside non-friendly groups at bay. The Nordics have very advanced technology that they don't share, except to say some of their technology is incorporated into both the USS Hillenketter and the USS Hoyt Vandenberg under the Tall Whites, supervision. The USS Curtis LeMay has been able to crew in outer space since 2003 because it is a U.S. deep space vehicle capable of Deep Quantum Tunneling Protocol, or DQTP. That's the physics of tunneling through space-time with Alcubierre warp drive to explore in other solar systems. Deep quantum tunneling might reduce travel time of, say, 50 light years down to only 5 Earth days of travel. Wikipedia defines deep quantum tunneling as a quantum mechanical phenomenon where the wave function can propagate through a potential barrier. Tunneling may be explained in terms of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, in that a quantum object can be known as a wave or as a particle in the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. In other words, the uncertainty in the exact location of light particles allows those photons to break rules of classical mechanics and move in space without passing over the potential energy barrier. My military aerospace source says that with help from friendly ET allies, such as the Tall Whites and Blonde Nordics, the USS Curtis LeMay was built to explore Earth's interstellar neighborhood since 2003, exploring 22 different solar systems in our arm of the Milky Way galaxy, including where blonde, blue-eyed, pale-skinned Nordics inhabit Procyon A and B, a binary star system 11.45 light-years from Earth. There, the very bright Procyon A orbits the fainter companion Procyon B. The pair orbit each other with a period of about 41 years along an elliptical orbit. The Nordics also inhabit another binary star system, Sirius A and B. Sirius A is the brightest star in Earth's sky, and there is its much smaller and dimmer companion, Sirius B. That star system is home to blonde, blue-eyed, white-skinned Nordic humanoids, and another humanoid species that lives in water, like the historic fish scale people of Mesopotamia and Mali, Africa. But my source of this information stresses, quote, "Our true friends that help us the most are the Tall Whites. These extraterrestrials are from 82G Eridani, about 20 light years from Earth, which is one of the 22 catalog star systems that our U.S. Space Force has explored. It is a main sequence star with a stellar classification of G6V and hosts a system of at least 3 super-Earth planets," close quote. Even in the 1970 book Habitable Planets for Man, 82G Eridani was given the highest estimate for habitability. Now continuing with information to my questions from the military aerospace source, quote, my source says, quote, "And the Tall Whites are extremely intelligent humanoids with white hair, pale eyes, very white skin, like white chalk. The U.S. Space Force has worked closely with them on multiple programs for a long time, and we have had by far the most interaction with this tall white group on technology exchange. We have also done society studies with their culture at the 82G Eridani star system, where the control of their tall white civilization is mainly based. I myself consider the Tall Whites to be our Earth human source race, and that's my source saying that, after everything I have read and heard in meetings through the years. The tall whites keep our intelligence folks in JSOC informed and up to date on what other intelligences are visiting Earth and for what reasons. Linda, you talked about the DIA analyst who told you in December of 1999 that our government had proof that 3 competing ET civilizations have been fighting over Earth for at least 270 million years. Well, what I've been told is that controlling Earth 270 million years ago was definitely the Sirius B group of Nordics. And these ETs look very close to us humans. If I sat you in a room with them, you would not know they are off-worlders, as we say. The Sirius B group looks very close to Norwegian or Scandinavian people. The texture of their skin is rough, like a person that spent most of their life suntanning a lot, and they have very thin facial features. And then my source answered my question about the mid to late 1980s increase in sightings of black triangular and sometimes boomerang-shaped craft that blocked out stars as the craft slowly moved in night skies. He surprised me when he said they were not ETs. He said those triangles with lights in the corners were the first U.S. space vehicles that could go out 2 light years to the Oort cloud that surrounds our solar system beyond the Kuiper Belt. My source says, quote, "We have had help from friendly ETs such as the tall whites and Nordics that have helped us build craft with worker bee types that we call programmed life forms, or PLFs. These are all ash gray small beings that are artificial intelligence. They help carry out missions and use small craft shaped like manta rays, not discs. The ash gray small child size are biologically alive, but they are described in government reports as being a nuisance to operations even, being conducted by the powerful JSOC, the Joint Special Operations Command, that is charged to study special operations and is involved in collaboration with extraterrestrials such as the tall whites and the Nordics. JSOC describes the programmed life forms as being designed for temporal space travel. This is a type of travel that we humans currently cannot do. The PLFs are grown, for a lack of better words, and are programmed for specific duties and mission assignments, just like human pilots are. The extraterrestrials that manage the programmed life forms are the much taller ancient grays. This is a very old race that do not travel through space often. They use these worker drones, the PLFs, to travel through space often. Notice I use the term through space, not in space. When the tall grays travel through space, time as we humans know it, it goes to a zero function of the waveform. That means you can travel instantaneously to any point in the universe in the blink of an eye. This is the holy grail that JSOC wants at any cost. We understand some of the physics, but it uses concepts that are difficult for us to grasp. Linda, our universe is a conscious entity. New studies imply the consciousness of observers are responsible for determining physical reality. And there's more about the little gray program life forms. It is the same type of craft that was involved in the 1947 Roswell incidents. It is shaped like a manta ray with small, flexible, vertical wingtips, and the wings are also flexible as well. The underbelly was covered with honeycomb-shaped glass ceramic-like structures, which are actually a type of waveguide using what is called CSE, cavity structured effect. The waveguide underbelly works similar to the way a waveguide works in a household microwave oven. Cavity structure defect is a key to understanding how these manta ray craft fly and levitate so quietly. The key to these cavity structure defect cells and the manta ray shaped small craft is the layering of micron thick various metals, especially magnesium, zinc, and bismuth. The layering of these metals, along with a binding agent similar to doping used in semiconductor manufacturing, is how gravity is nullified. The main component to achieving this nullification of gravity is the bismuth metal. It is the most diamagnetic of all elements. That means it resists magnetic fields. So bismuth is one of the most important metals used in these extraterrestrial craft. Bismuth is also very important in our human work in trying to do deep quantum tunneling protocol, which is similar to Alcubierre's warp drive. Bismuth is a key component to how it works. We are working on other behaviors of bismuth that are highly classified. Without bismuth, the extraterrestrials cannot travel through space. Bismuth is a direct tie-in with consciousness between minds and the conscious universe, and you're looking at my photograph that I took all the way back in the early 1990s. And what is it? Alternating layers of pure black, pure bismuth, 1 to 4 microns, alternating with magnesium zinc alloy, 97.6% magnesium and 2.4% zinc. And like a thin torte cake, those alternating layers with the pure bismuth are what a physicist told me he studied in the 1970s and came to understand that this was one of the skins of the craft that came down in the 40s and other locations, and that this skin combined with another skin of pure aluminum with iridium atoms atomically placed are what would allow the beings with their minds and their technologies to neutralize gravity and to move point to point through this universe. So the dots in the pointillisme are beginning to come to form a big picture. They're all linked, and they're all linked to other intelligences in this universe, and we are an intelligence that is currently inhabiting the surface of planet Earth.